Hey, hello everybody. No, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Hey, hi, Halloween! Last year, I decided that for the month of October, I'd partake in the Inktober challenge and draw a Fakemon every day. This year, I've decided to draw more Fakemon, but instead of Inktober, I've partaken in Apoctober. The heck is Apoctober? Created by Subjectively Jack, aka @MagicJackArt on Instagram, Apoctober is an art challenge where throughout October you draw nightmarish, Lovecraftian horrors, incomprehensible beings that drive your mind wild while melting your brain. Or something like that. Me being me, I decided to make 31 spooky Fakemon. What are we waiting for? Let's have a look. Day 1. ALGAE. A simple, non-flowering and typically aquatic plant of a large group that includes the seaweeds and many single-celled forms. My initial concept was some sort of gooey, algae-backed floating dude. Then I designed this multi-legged single strand of kelp with a gross head at the bottom, but really wasn't feeling it at all. I knew I wanted something like Delmise, something seaweed-like with a hidden face, and trust me, I know algae and kelp are not entirely the same thing. However, if ALGAE can get away with it, so can I. Starting from scratch a few more times, I eventually came up with the Sea Creeper Pokemon. Day 2. Corpse. A dead body. Now, obviously we can't use a literal corpse as a Fakemon. The first thing that came to mind would be something similar to Buried Alive, that old Pokemon creepypasta zombie that eats the player, but 1, that's too human, and 2, it's really dumb. Taking closer inspiration from animals, roadkill specifically, I decided to go with a possum-like creature with an exposed ribcage that would act as a mouth. Meet the roadkill Pokemon. Day 3. Cauldron. A large metal pot with a lid and handle. More associated with witches, I knew I wanted this mon to be full of goop. I was playing around with the idea of having a cauldron maybe be an overworld Pokeball that opens and attacks when interacted with. However, it wasn't very cauldron-y. It was just a Pokeball filled with sludge. Maybe I took this defeat a bit too on the nose, because then I decided to make a literal cauldron, the face of which is indicated on the swirls and patterns of its ever-overflowing slime. The Brew Pokemon. Day 4. Nightmare. A frightening or unpleasant dream. The first thing that comes to the mind of any fan when they hear the words Nightmare Pokemon is Darkrai. I wanted to stray as far as that from possible. I thought of Freddy Krueger, and then my own personal childhood tormentor, Slenderman, but finally, sleep paralysis. Nothing has left me as shook as sleep paralysis. I wanted this mon to be something you'd find in your room, ever so normal, until you turn off the lights. Something close, unnoticeable. Perhaps the very pillows under your head. Meet Pillow, the pillow Pokemon. Resembling a pillow and 2 cushions, Pillow has a ravenous appetite, attempting to eat souls through its cavernous mouth. However, it is pillow-like in nature, so swatting them away isn't too difficult. Day 5. Abyss. A deep or seemingly bottomless chasm. Now here's a question. How do you make an empty space, a deep hole, into a physical being? Thinking less literally, I came up with something almost Spiritomb-like, with an impossibly deep body with several arms reaching out from within, and those that aren't giving off the illusion of teeth. Also snake body, because why not? The Abyss Pokemon. Day 6. Womb. The organ in the lower body of a woman or female mammal where offspring are conceived and in which they gestate before birth. Surprisingly, something as mature as this gave me an idea almost immediately. When I think to carrying a child in the context of Pokemon, my mind immediately jumps to Kangaskhan. Given its fan relationship with Cubone, the idea was that instead of the mother dying and the offspring wearing her skull, the mother would die before giving birth, and the unborn baby, using its newfound ghost energy, would take control of its mother's bones. Pretty sick, huh? Kangaskhan, the unborn Pokemon. Day 7. Moon. The natural satellite of the Earth, visible at night by reflecting light from the sun. Did I really need to define Moon? Anyways, Moon was not as obvious as I'd have hoped. I would have done something with Lunatone, but Subjectively had just showcased their new Lunatone variant earlier that week. I was thinking of doing something with the face of the moon, but nothing fantastic was coming to mind. Instead of using the obvious, I decided to look into other depictions of the moon, and I remembered solar eclipses, where the moon blocks out the sun, putting the world in total darkness for just a few moments. And there I had it. Apoctober Ghastly, the Eclipse Pokemon. Day 8. Primal. Relating to an early stage in evolutionary development. Nothing earlier in human evolution than caveman versus wild beasts, and wild beast is exactly what I went with. While not taking inspiration from prehistoric animals, I went with combining a gorilla and a crocodile, two animals that would have no trouble dispatching their enemies. Big tooth, big arm, whole lot of muscle, kill you dead. Although the result looks almost like a platypus. The Primal Pokemon. Day 9. Research. The systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. This one stumped me the hardest. I was thinking of an artificially created Pokemon straight out the gate, one that became so intelligent that it then began to run experiments on the humans that created it. However, all the designs I came up with were just insanely busy. Couldn't pass as a Pokemon by any stretch. Thinking back to artificially created Pokemon, I considered Mewtwo and thought, what if there was another Pokemon that we tried to replicate and failed? How about Deoxys? But for added creep factor, it's unfinished, ever seeking someone to help build the rest of its body. Those that can't, it does away with. Meet Deoxys, the unfinished Pokemon. Day 10. Worship. The feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for a deity. Despite already having a Pokemon god, the first thing worship made me think of was a cult leader, with a Jacob's ram skull and sights for hands. I was a big fan of the skull, so I tried the same thing but on an Arceus body, but wasn't feeling it. I figured the devil is usually depicted as bipedal with goat hooves, one thing led to another, and BAM! The Cult Pokemon. Day 11. Brain. An organ of soft nervous tissue contained in the skull. For Brain, I repurposed an old design, a cerebral arachnid. I was playing around with the idea of including a skull, but honestly it was just too busy. The brain and the lone eyeball is much creepier. Aragdolon, the web Pokemon. Rarely found in the wild, Aragdolon are notorious for creating psychic illusions, resulting in many creatures getting stuck in its legs. If an Aragdolon is unchallenged, it can destroy the surrounding area's ecosystem. Day 12. Dream. A series of thoughts, images, and sensations occurring in a person's mind during sleep. I could not even begin to explain what my original idea for Dream was. However, as an opposite to Nightmare, I thought this would be a good time to evolve our old friend Pillu. Meet Duvet, the bedding Pokemon. Masters of disguise, Duvet are most active at night and in cold areas, tempting those who are cold and seeking warmth by using their quilt. Those unfortunate enough to give in to temptation will have their souls slowly drained away through the very fabric they are wrapped in. Day 13. Giant. Of very great size or force. I needed to think of something that was huge but also really terrified me. Clouds? Not really. Mountains, cliffs? Maybe. Skyscrapers? Sort of, but that's when I'm in them. But all of those things are kind of cool as well. However, tidal waves? Nah. After designing a Fakemon based around a wave, this colossal force resembled a certain existing Pokemon already. Apoctober Muck, the tidal wave Pokemon. Day 14. Cloud. A visible mass of condensed watery vapor floating in the atmosphere. Hurricanes and tornadoes, two natural phenomena which utterly terrify me, seemed like the perfect candidate for a spooky cloud. However, I struggled to find a convincing way to interpret their elements into a Pokemon design. Taking a step back, I had another think about a scary kind of cloud. Mushroom clouds. You know, from a nuke. Mushroom though. A Boomgus, the mushroom cloud Pokemon. Day 15. Sea. The expanse of salt water that covers most of the Earth's surface and surrounds its land masses. Covering most of the planet's surface, nothing is scarier to most people than the creatures that reside below the ocean's surface. While they don't scare me to look at, the idea of being stranded in the ocean with one of these things does terrify me. Sharks, saltwater crocodiles, anglerfish, they all contributed towards the vicious sea Pokemon. Day 16. Insect. A small arthropod animal that has 6 legs and generally 1 or 2 pairs of wings. There is truly only one insect that terrifies me, and that is a wasp. I had friends when I was younger who'd always say, leave them be and they'll go away. No. Last time I let a wasp do its thing, it crawled right inside my ear and stung me. No, thank you. The giant hornet Pokemon. Day 17. Egg. Round object laid by a female bird, reptile, fish, or invertebrate, usually containing a developing embryo. So, this one time, my sister cracked open an egg and it had an unborn chicken fetus inside. So yeah. The unborn Pokemon. Day 18. Death. The action or fact of dying or being killed. I wanted to avoid the typical depiction of death, you know, the Grim Reaper. I figured after laying on your bed, getting nice and tucked in, there's no way you'd be scared of your very own bed killing you. Right? Deadbedspread. The bedspread Pokemon. Often taking up residence in abandoned houses, there have been rare instances where wild Deadbedspread have ended up in residential homes, resulting in terrible catastrophes. Day 19. Dive. Plunge headfirst into water. I was thinking a lake creature that would grab you and drag you down to the depths. Maybe a creature with human-looking hands that would hide its true form under the water's surface. Hell, maybe it looks different above and below the water, having different forms if it's hit by a water-type move. The diving Pokemon. Day 20. Tentacle. A slender, flexible limb or appendage in an animal, used for grasping or moving about. I wanted to play around with silhouettes. We haven't had any waifu-mons so far this October, so how about a mollusk that resembles a well-endowed lady? The form change Pokemon. Day 21. Treasure. A quantity of precious metals, gems, or other valuable objects. For anyone who checked out my Inktober video last year, treasure is a returning prompt. It was also on day 21 then, what the hell? I decided I'd go ahead and give the mon I did last year a redesign, a glow up, a fix. Still a cute treasure chest, but this time, instead of gold, he's full of innards and giblets. The treasure chest Pokemon. Day 22. Fish. A limbless, cold-blooded vertebrate animal with gills and fins living wholly in water. My first idea for fish was just a decapitated head with a hook, only because it's creepy. I'd already done a fish for the sea prompt and then a wave for the giant prompt, so I've sort of at a loss. But anyone familiar with my DeviantArt or even my Fakemon reviews will recognize Swimbiote and Hostouge, parasite Fakemon based off the tongue-eating louse, which when you think about it are absolutely horrible conceptually. It suddenly dawned on me. We have a new 2-stage fish, which means boom! Hostouge, Barracuda form, the host Pokemon. After draining as much of the host's nutrients as it can bear, Swimbiote evolves, turning into the mighty Hostouge. This Pokemon develops traits from the Pokemon it had been feeding off of, and evolves accordingly. The unfortunate part is that Barracuda, once the host to this terrible parasite, has now become a mindless bottom feeder itself. Day 23. Demon. An evil spirit or devil, especially one thought to possess a person or act as a tormentor in hell. My initial thoughts for this was kind of a multi-mouthed eyeless portal beast, and in Pokemon this guy was begging to be the next Ultra Beast. I gave him a bit of a Bitores Mendez-ass spine and some Rayman-ass arms. I imagine this guy would always be mid-emerging from a portal. What its legs look like? Who knows? UB Demon, the Hellscape Pokemon. Day 24. Lost. Unable to find one's way, not knowing one's whereabouts. Lost had me thinking of a remote island, but as a creature. Interesting, but not spooky. Got thinking about lost kids, and then got thinking about Phantom, the spirit of a child who died while lost in the woods. Thinking about other places children could get lost, we figured the shopping center. Apoctober Phantom, the bag Pokemon. According to rumor, these Pokemon are bags possessed by the spirits of children who died while lost in shopping centers. With a voice like a human child's, it cries out to lure adults deep into the aisles, getting them lost among the snacks. Day 25. Plague. A contagious bacterial disease characterized by fever and delirium. I was immediately thinking of rats, however plague doctors also came to mind. Turns out that fleas actually carried the Black Plague and rats carried the fleas, so rat. I decided that this man's legs can slide up and down its spine, making it a great candidate for physical comedy, despite being responsible for killing 25 million people. The Plague Rat Pokemon. Day 26. Curse. A supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. I initially thought of a creature with an ominous shadow, but I wasn't feeling it. Then went to the typical curse imagery, a voodoo doll. Its enlarged eye is actually the base of a pin, impaling its head. Maybe when you remove these pins, it affects someone in real life. The Voodoo Pokemon. Day 27. Dagger. A short knife with a pointed and edged blade, used as a weapon. This was actually the last one I came up with, and honestly it's my least favourite. I was proper stumped, but sure, 1 out of 31 being okay-ish is pretty good. Apoctober. The Ogre Scorpion Pokemon. Day 28. Blood. The red liquid that circulates in the arteries and veins of humans and other vertebrate animals. Blood was insanely easy. People don't like injections and needles, and mosquitoes suck blood, so... The Blood Draining Pokemon. Day 29. Cave. A natural underground chamber in a hillside or cliff. Cave also came to me right away, a sentient movable cave face that would remain motionless until its prey wandered in, to suddenly be crushed in a cave-in. They're eaten. I also gave it a Zubat uvula, so why not? The Cave Pokemon. Day 30. Grave. A hole dug in the ground to receive a coffin or dead body, typically marked by a stone or a mound. Grave had me somewhat stumped, but I eventually decided to redesign Tomb Digger, a Fakemon whose redesign would have been featured in an upcoming Fakemon review episode. Surprise! If you have any design suggestions for this, please let me know down below, as I may take them on board for its official Fakemon review redesign. Tomb Digger, the Grave Digger Pokemon. Day 31. Sacrifice. An act of slaughtering an animal or person or surrendering a possession as an offering to a deity. Finally, sacrifice. As it's coming up to Halloween, witches were on the mind, and most of all, the Blair Witch. I was thinking along the lines of her stickman symbols, however, the Blair Witch doesn't sacrifice people. She fucking whacks them. However, then I thought about King Kong. Sure, has nothing to do with a witch, but sacrifice? You bet. I eventually came up with this guy, and I gotta say, bizarre? Yes. A fan? Also yes. The Ritual Pokemon. Thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate that this might be a few days late. I only recorded the audio, so obviously I don't know when it's coming out. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe. I do a lot of Pokemon redesign stuff. I play a lot of Pokemon games. Sometimes I need to get back into it. And I also do other fun videos as well. So if you like this, I'll probably do more stuff like it. Also be sure to check out my second channel, Deadbedspread, where I do a lot of streaming. All of the Fakemon in this video were designed on stream with people helping me out. If you'd like to be involved in the next time I do something like this, be sure to go over there and subscribe. Anyway, I've been Deadbedspread, and all the best. The first thing that comes to mind... The first thing that